and welcome to this new episode of the podcast, Pack Your Bags and Wait, Let's Talk About Mental Health. And today I have with me Vic, Eva, and Kamilya. And I'll let you guys introduce yourself. Tell us, what do you study, where did you go, and why? So who wants to go first?
I can go first if you want. So, my name is Eva. I'm studying at King's International Relations, third year. Last year, well, I'm from France, but I still decided to go studying abroad in France to go to science school, but I decided to choose the campus of France. And I'm gonna talk about it and what was my mental health there.
Well, my name is Victoria. Everybody calls me Vic. I also study international relations, and I chose to go to Hong Kong with Emilie for my year abroad. And I kind of chose Hong Kong because, I don't know, it's a totally different culture, different perspective, and it was super interesting.
Hi, I'm Kamilya. I'm studying management and modern languages with a year abroad. And I am currently in my third year in my year abroad in the Dominican Republic. I didn't really choose to come here. Because I'm doing languages and specifically Spanish, it had to be in a Spanish-speaking country, and I just knew I didn't want to go to Spain. So I just applied to many different things in the Caribbean and South America, and I guess I ended up in Dominican Republic.
Not bad.
Yeah,
So I'll ask you a few questions, and the first one is, did your study abroad affect in any way on your mental health? If yes, what were the factors that affect your mental health?
Going abroad did affect my mental health. I was already diagnosed with depression before I went abroad, which was one of the big things. But I thought I was ready. I kind of was like, fresh start. There's a lot of things you kind of have to have in mind. For us, it was COVID, especially. We had to do the hotel quarantine. Emilie knows.
I'll add about this later.
And also, the other big aspect that isn't COVID related was finances for me. I struggled a lot with budgeting and also unexpected costs of living and so on. And I think that was the biggest aspect of mental health that kind of affected me then.
Because everything is interrelated. If we stress about our budget, our finances, then that can also affect our mental health. Yeah.
For me, it was a lot of the preparation before going on the year abroad. A lot of anxiety and just, I guess, the fear of the unknown, which can really get to you until last minute. I was still doubting on whether going or not. Other than that, personally, being abroad really affected in my mental health in a good way. As soon as I stepped foot here, I guess things just got better because I guess it was needed to have some time alone and far away from home.
For me, I think, well, first, I'm living abroad, either in London or either when I was in France, in France, because I was just not home. I think what affected my mental health, I didn't realize it at the beginning, but the fact that when I was abroad, I was first in a rather small city, this was kind of very small, so not that much to do, and I was living, I thought it was going to be an accommodation with super lively, in my first year in London, but it wasn't at all. People didn't actually talk to each other. It was just much more like a building with several studios, and that's it. And I think living alone affected me a lot because there was nothing to do in the city, except going to the uni, but library closing at 7, going to the gym or going to a bar. And so whenever I wanted to do something different, like going for an exhibition or going for a walk, it will always be the same exhibition or the same walk. And I'm kind of the person that needs to do a lot of things to function. I'd rather be busy than not have anything to do. So that was a bit complicated for me, but still, like, it was nice.
I get
But
that.
I didn't realize at the moment that was affecting my mental health. It was like there was a letter that I understood it was because of this, but I was just like bored because I had nothing to do and not that much work.
I think it proves how mental health could be affected in different ways. It can be prior to departure or after, because in my case, mental health for me was something I completely neglected, didn't even consider as a possible potential challenge. And it's only once I got to Hong Kong and I got to quarantine that it hit me. Because I was like, oh, everything's going to be fine. Quarantine, I manage being on my own. It's going to be all right. I'll have Wi-Fi. I can call everybody, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'll be all right. Long story short. So basically, before going to Hong Kong, I had COVID, but like 2-3 weeks prior to departure. And then when I got to Hong Kong, the officials tell me, oh, you're positive because we had a PCR test when we arrived. And I'm like, what? How come? Like, I had my PCR, my antigen negative back in France to make sure like I was good to go. And then now you're telling me I'm positive. So they sent me to the hospital.
Yeah.
I still didn't have my luggage. And this quarantine was awful because, I mean, the first week was okay because I had Wi-Fi, I had USB plugs because obviously I forgot that Hong Kong had British plugs and I didn't have an adapter. So the first week was okay. Like the food was good, was nice, everything. But then what happens? It's really dumb and stupid, but I forget my towel in the big room that was open to everybody because it was just in a glass box. And I run to get my towel and then I slip and hit my coccyx and my head to the ground. And so they were super stressed. They sent me to another hospital to make scans to make sure I didn't break anything because otherwise they would have been responsible for my broken coccyx. But and in the end I stayed in the other hospital still with no luggage. And I thought they would have a toothpaste, a toothbrush, like in the first hospital. But no, the other hospital was so much worse. I had nothing. I didn't have USB plugs, so I couldn't charge my phone. So once I lost battery, I had no contact whatsoever with my family and friends. And the worst is, I think, what was horrible for my mental health is that they were kind of making me wait. They told me at the beginning, oh, you're going to leave the hospital like in 2 days. And every 2 days they were saying, oh, by the way, you're staying a bit like two more days. And then one day I'm like at the second hospital, I'm asking the doctor, so when are you going to release me? Because like, I'm not sick. I don't have any symptom, but I'm treated as if I'm like so sick and everything. And then in the end, the doctor tells me he's just standing behind the glass of my little box in the second hospital. And he's saying, oh, by the way, in the end, we're going to keep you 1 more week in that hospital. And
How did that affect your mental health?
Because I had no Wi-Fi, no plugs to charge my battery.
So just a connection with like anyone.
I had no way to contact anybody. And if I wanted help, and I needed help, or just to talk with human beings, I couldn't.
In Chinese.
No, I remember. Because you disappeared from like the Hong Kong group chat for a few weeks, and we were like, "Where's Emilie?" And then you told us the story.
And then right before my battery died of my phone, I sent a text to my parents. I was like, if you hear no news from me, I'm there. I'm being a rat lab. You know where I am. And I have no more battery. So, yeah, like, if you don't hear anything from me, that's why. So I'm in this hospital, and I had nothing to do. I obviously forgot my Kindle in my suitcase. Left my Kindle in my suitcase, but my suitcase was still at the airport. I had no hygiene for like 4 days because they didn't provide me with toothbrush or toothpaste or sleepers. I was wearing, at least I took like disposable panties from the first hospital so I could change panties, but I was in the same pajama for all day long. And it's just when you can't even have a normal behavior, when you can't even be a normal human being, like brush your teeth. I had to ask for soap, shampoo. I would wake up in the morning and cry because I would have nothing to do. I would stink from my mouth because I couldn't even brush my teeth. I had to ask, so I asked for shampoo, and then once I had shampoo, I felt like some sort of human. So all day long, what I just did was, thanks God they gave me a paper and a pencil, so I was writing, and just because otherwise I had no other interaction than myself, because the nurses weren't speaking to me. The doctor was...
I mean, I think it's important to say that's not a situation that's gonna happen to anyone now. Like, because
you never know if they're going to
quarantine anymore.
Quarantine. But it's how
you still have to do the test to go to HK.
No, they can't. They stopped it.
Okay, so they should not like kind of arrest you and put you in a hospital for 2 weeks.
No, but
it should not happen again.
You never know. You never know what to expect, and you never know. I left knowing that my mental health would be so impacted because I literally felt like I didn't feel human. I felt like I didn't have. I didn't have any hygiene. I was just spending my days writing in my journal, then watching TV in Cantonese, and then cartoons in Cantonese, and then I would sometimes just stand in front of the window, look at the view, and cry. And then just lie on my bed, look at my watch, and then watch how my time would go by. And then when the doctor told me that I would stay 1 more week, I had such a mental breakdown. I just cried. And the nurses said, they came and they were like, "Oh, everything's gonna be okay." And I was like, "No, everything is not gonna be okay. Like I can't even call my parents. I don't have any contact with anybody. I can't talk to anybody. Like I don't have control of the situation." And then the nurses were like, "We could hear you cry from like the end of the corridor," and I was like, "Yeah, obviously. Like, I feel shit. I feel bad. Like, I'm in a horrible situation. Where I can't even communicate and ask for help because there was no help."
I think it's also especially important, even like if future students are not going to have the kind of COVID-19 crazy experience we had.
Yeah.
For example, like the same feeling Emilie's describing was a feeling I also felt in my housing situation in Hong Kong. And it's something that if you're not budgeting correctly or ready for the housing situation, you're going to have those kinds of problems. Like, Emilie, I'm listening to you and I feel so like same, like relatable, because the place where I was living was like, I had rats, maggots, cockroaches, everything, and it really just changes the entire experience for you. Like, but I felt like it was a very Hong Kong experience for us, because like the housing situation, the COVID situation, all those things kind of play a huge impact.
It's this kind of situation where you don't have the control on them, and they just come so unexpectedly that you wouldn't expect them to hit that much. A simple gesture can be so helpful. Like anyone just asking how you doing or any help. Like the nurses, when they came and told me everything's going to be okay. And they came the next day with a bag full of sweets, coffee, like a journal with not Sudoku, but like crosswords. And I felt so happy. And they brought like toothpaste from the hotel next to the hospital. And I cried out of joy because I was like, I feel human, it's these little intentions of someone giving you like a little gesture of help that can matter so much. And then I felt just so happy to just be able to do crosswords. And then when I got out of that hospital, I felt so happy because I was from my little room up in the hospital, I was looking down at the people and I was thinking how you're lucky to be outside and to breathe fresh air. and then I had to do my third week in the hotel, but the hotel.
So then after that was the elements that affect your mental health before actually starting living like Hong Kong vibe. So once you were outside and like living your life, etc., did you have like any mental health like issues or things that like affected your mental health?
Not really, but this quarantine impacted me so much that I actually started to care about my
Yeah.
mental health and actually started journaling, for instance, write down on paper how I feel to make myself feel better, because actually, like, that answers to my
I think
next
that's something
question.
that helps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
writing helps a
I
lot.
think that helps. Yeah.
I I don't know if how I would have survived if I didn't write my thoughts during this quarantine, but at least the third week of quarantine went much better because I had Wi-Fi, and as soon as I got to the hotel, I plugged my phone that charged, and I could call my parents.
Yeah.
And the first call I had with my parents, we were all like crying out of joy. We're like, "Oh, are you okay?" Because they didn't hear from me for like more than a week, and I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, yeah, I'm talking to some humans," you know. So
Yeah, no, that's,
it
but I
was
feel like writing is something important as well. Like in general, like even when you have a phone and you can write on a phone and you can write on your computer, I feel like sometimes when you have an issue, writing helps you like sometimes it's kind of like blurry in your head, and once you write it down, you need to like cannot organize like as an academic essay, but you need to like do a
put
sentence that
words
follow
to
the next
feelings.
one and everything. Yeah. And after I think that's helped a lot. Even like it feel like it's how out of your mind kind of for me. It's like once I put it down, it just like on the paper. It's not in my mind anymore. Like out of the way. But yeah, I will
Yeah.
recommend writing actually.
So maybe we can already go straight to the next question of, since we got to that point of what did you do to improve your mental health? Any recommendation, any tips on how to work on your mental health whilst being abroad, on how you coped with struggles?
Well, for me, my case was a bit more extreme again. Like, I was kind of living in a very bad, like, housing situation. Like, life in Hong Kong was great, but that was a big thing. So, what I recommend is go to your host uni or even like King's, email the mental health department, get help, ask for help, because it took me so long to kind of think like this is not normal. And so kind of what I did to cope with it was that I actually got proper like psychiatric support from the uni. And that really did start changing the way things worked for me at the time. I know for most people, maybe mental health is more of like you have to relax, you have to like keep a mindfulness kind of setting. But when it gets to that point, also ask for help when you need it.
Yeah, as me, I try to like I tried to talk to like a psychologist in science school and everything, but they were not that good. Like it was just a girl sitting and waiting for me to talk. I was just like, okay, how long are we gonna spend like this? But I actually didn't think about contacting Kings directly. So like how King helps you. Like you had what like psychology session or
Um,
I
through Kings, basically what they helped me with, like that was already like semester 2, was that I had problems with my assignments. And through the disability department, through the mental health department, they helped me kind of like adapt to my deadlines so that I could like still go to therapy and still get help while also meeting the academic needs. But again, I literally left it for last minute, so I guess that's why I say that if you feel like you're really struggling, that the key is to ask for help when you feel like it, not to kind of let it get worse.
I wanted to ask the psychological support that you got, was it from King's, like in terms of therapy sessions and stuff?
Not actually from King's. It was from HKU,
Okay.
but I had a similar situation to Eva. In the case that when I went to HKU's mental health support, there's a lot of stigma in like Asia generally and culturally about depression and this kind of issues. So they weren't really that helpful. So what worked for me was that I went directly to like health, like not even just the mental health like sector, I just like to the GP and told them like this is what's happening, and that was much more helpful at the long run.
I know, like as like the psychologist from my like institution, uni wasn't really that helpful. I just start searching one in the city or like just outside of uni. It was more expensive, but no.
For me, the first I kind of struggled in November and December. So I arrived here in early November, and the first 2 months were I just struggled for a bit, and I was also dealing with stuff from prior to the departure, and it was a lot more than I thought I had in my mind. And I tried to reach out to Kings to, I don't know if I can say this or not on this podcast, but I tried to reach out to Kings to see if they just had any mental health support available for me, even though I was on my year abroad. And I thought that they did because I had also like read on the website that they had a lot of support even online and stuff. But when I emailed and I tried to reach out, they didn't. I mean, they were like the opposite of helpful.
Same. Like the thing about Kings is that the actual what I came to understand is that the actual mental health department, it has a lot of demand, and so therefore, like as an exchange student, we're kind of placed lower on the list of priorities, which is unfortunate, obviously. But again, my personal recommendation was that I reached out to the disability department. So there's a lot of different departments that you can reach out that are not necessarily mental health that could help out. So that's a good one to know, just in case.
Yeah, that's really good to know, because I think for me it was like very restricted in terms of knowing who to reach out to.
Yeah, same.
So it's good to know that there are other departments to reach out to.
It's good that we talk about this, because one of my questions was there any support from your host institution? So I guess from King's not really. And host institution, do you have? Actually, you're doing an internship, Kamilya. But so Vic, would you say HKU has been effective or helpful in any way?
Same thing as King's, in the sense that HKU's mental health department was not helpful at all, because there's so much demand. Obviously, there'll be you have one session with a psychologist, and then you have to wait 3 months or so on. But the actual medical department at HKU, the public health, was incredible for me in that aspect. I was going to regular visits to my GP to talk about my mental health and stuff twice a week with no problems. So I guess you could say that, yeah, HKU on that side was very helpful. So, balance.
It's good that we're talking about this, because, for instance, there probably are people like me and realize that actually mental health matters, because I didn't really reach out or anything. And because I really, after the quarantine, I just decided to go over this and that it's passed. But actually, when I had to redo a quarantine when I went to Thailand afterwards, I thought, oh, it's only 10 days. It's going to be okay. But I didn't realize that I've been so traumatized by the first quarantine.
Right, it was triggering.
Doing this again, I didn't realize it impacted me to that extent, where I just had awful 10 days. Where being lonely, at least I had Wi-Fi, so I could call and chat. But I didn't realize to what extent it impacted me in a way that I didn't think of reaching out or talking it through. I thought, oh, writing is enough. So actually, anyone listening to this and was at the same stage as me, reach out and everything. And I'm not even gonna lie, even now I'm a bit shy to go ask for help.
I think that if I need to give tips for someone about mental health and everything, I think first is I know that there's some kind of people that when something happens they just will keep it for themselves. I'm not this kind of people, so directly I prefer to reach out. But for everyone, I think when something is really impacting you, or the way how you function and everything, I think it's important to reach out to your friend or to any professional as well, or whoever that can help, family. And I think what helped me is that while seeing a psychologist was not all the time, it was twice a month or something like this. I think it helped me realizing what do I need in my life to actually function and be happy and everything. So I try to I know that I'm feeling better and more comfortable in my life when, for example, I do sports, or when I I don't know, I go see an exhibition, for example. So after I try to put like a kind of like routine in my life to be sure that like I had this, like it was my priority. Like I know that like, for example, on Sunday, I'm going for boxing and that's not something that I will change. Like it's my priority. And if I need to do something else, like, I mean, it's a bad example because today it's Sunday and I went for brunch, but I will go to
Not
the
bad.
gym later. But yeah, but it's still like if you have like important things that you know are important to you, like do them and prioritize them. Like rather than like your friends, you can see them after or before, or like you can go for an exhibition and after ask a friend to meet for a coffee near the museum or something like this. But just like I think it's important to know like what you like and what you enjoy doing to be like to function well, and just apply this to your life as like your priority first
Yeah,
above your work as well, above uni. Like I think it's important.
because like I agree fully with you, Eva, because for me one of the things that helped was more than a routine. Also sports. Like I was doing yoga, I think it was once a week.
The air thingy that you were doing in HK, so cool.
I miss it so much, but basically like I had the same feeling as like it also gives you a sense of home in a way, because it was something I was already doing before I went to Hong Kong, and kind of keeping that in my routine helped stabilize my, and it gives you something to look forward
Yeah.
to. So yeah, I feel like that's a very good
Yeah.
recommendation.
And to say as well, live in the moments. It can like sound really like not helpful, but just like I know like sometimes you can't fight against like anxiety or you have regrets and everything, but at the end your regrets you're never gonna like change them. You don't have the opportunity to go in the past and change. I mean I realized it after, so it's helping me now, but it's just that like like you can't change what's gonna happen later. For example, the dissertation. I don't want myself to stress about it because I know anyway I'm gonna do it before the deadline. Like I don't have a choice. So I would rather like enjoy the moments and be happy to like work on things that are gonna come after and not stress about it before it's arriving. Like for example, if you have like a meeting with a friend or like a date in 2 days, you're gonna stress about it for like 2 days, but at the end, stressing or not about it is not going to change the fact that you have like a date or a meeting in 2 days. So just enjoy the moment you have during the 2 days, and after you will cry if you need to after the date. I think. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
No.
To bounce back
No.
on what Victoria and Eva was saying, like doing activities and sports, I think I really resonate with that. For me, like it's like one of the things that I did to improve my mental health here was like opening up myself to like a lot to the culture. And one thing here is like dancing the traditional Dominican bachata.
Ooh.
And anyone who knows me he knew me before going to the DR knows that I do not dance. But I came here and I just like, everyone is so passionate about that dance, and I was like, well, I might as well like, I don't know, try. And I found that it was like very therapeutic, in like so many different ways, like just like spending some good energy in putting it in like doing a sport, and also like I don't know, everything about the whole thing is very therapeutic, and it's like about like it's also like one of the ways that you can just invest in yourself, like invest in your time and yourself, and like give yourself the time to actually, I don't know, like learn a new skill, and make sure your brain is occupied, but in a good way, because sometimes we do stress a lot about things but for nothing, like Eva was saying, and it's like just so unnecessary. So you might as well take the time to do something that you're going to enjoy, and even if you're not particularly going to enjoy that, like if you can just try it out and see how it goes. If it doesn't go well, then you can try and learn something else. But yeah, I think that's also a really cool thing to do.
So overall, the recommendation is try new activities to change your mind, and I think it's a good advice because I do recognize that when, for instance, the only sport I like is swimming, and I do see that after I swam, I just feel refreshed. Like, oh, all the little problems I was stressing out about, like, not gone, obviously, but it made me more calm. And yeah, exactly.
I really like on the bachata thing, just as something, it's really nice that there's that kind of cultural immersion as well, because obviously bachata is kind of one of the traditional dances also in Venezuela. So hearing that somebody coming abroad enjoys like that side of our culture is super nice. So that's go abroad.
Bachata literally has my heart.
Oh, it can sound a bit bullshit, but I feel like sometimes when you're having a issue or trouble, just think about like how in 5 years or years, the little issue that seems so important now for you, like in 5 years you won't even remember what it was about. So like, just
or you'll be
chill.
laughing about it.
Yeah, and like sometimes like I know that like 5 years ago I cried about I don't know why, and it was like the worst moment of my life, but now I don't even remember it. Like so chill.
Is there anything you wish you would have done different?
I don't think so at the end. Like I feel like living alone. I mean, I think you have to experience it, and if I didn't experience it, I would have experienced it later. So at the end, I feel like you grow of everything that you experience. So I don't know. I feel like maybe find professional. I mean, I was not in a state where I really need to see a professional, but it really helped me. So maybe if you feel like it's manifested a lot by social anxiety. Like I didn't have this at all, and just like it's just show up in my year last year, and I didn't understood what it was, if it was normal. Like I didn't understand why I was having this. So yeah, I wish I reached out before to someone that will actually help me.
I think that's really important to say because it's also, I think Emilie was saying this before you were saying how like you didn't put much importance on mental health, and I really resonate with that. I think it was really the same thing for me until like one of my friends a few months ago. It's not even that, like even when it hit for me, it was like a case of okay, I'm gonna deal this on like I will deal with it on my own and that's it. But then like a few months ago, one of my friends was like, you should ask for help. Like even if it's just to talk about a small thing, like sometimes it's nice to have someone like a third party like coming in and just like listening to you or just like reaching out to anyone. And it's just I think it's just like really important. Like even the just the actual intention or like the step like actually reaching out, even if it doesn't end up like happening for some reason, just the fact that you actually take that step already says a lot, and it's like 90% of the whole work. Like you're actually recognizing and noticing that there's something that you need to work on, and even if like you're not going to have therapy or you're not going to do this particular thing, then at least you're aware of like how you're feeling and like your mental state in the moment, and you can try and find other ways to help yourself.
For me, when I searched, like I went first for a therapist in my old university, and it didn't work out after months, so I kind of lost time. And after I found a new one, but in the city, so it was quite expensive, and I actually didn't have that much of the money, but I figured it out. But for other people, I discovered after that for like short-term basis, kind of, you have like websites on internet that are like professional websites from like doctor and everything that can like talk to you by messages. So like and there are like 24 hours, 7 days, like whenever. So like if there is a moment that you really feel bad, like it can be an option, but like a temporary one. But yeah, might reach out.
That's really interesting because like to bounce back on the thing about like with Kings, for me it was like really my first time reaching out ever, and I was so scared and I was like, oh my God, should I actually do this? And so I reached out and I didn't really know where to reach out apart from Kings. And when I did, the experience was so unhelpful. And like at first I was like a bit disoriented and I was like, okay, what should I do now? And also it's the thing like I had a friend who had like a few recommendations, but the thing is like I'm halfway around the world with like 4 or 5 hours time difference with Europe, and it's like not easy like fitting anything in the schedule with like time difference. But like knowing that there's like stuff like this to help and like just other ways to reach out is really helpful.
I mean, it's an option. Like you can talk to the people like I will say like an hour by messages, but after they will like if you really want something for a long term and everything, they will like ask you to pay or like have like a professional thing or like. But I think when you have a problem or you don't feel well, I don't know, at like 3 a.m. you have no one to contact or you don't know and you really feel unwell, like that can help.
Well, like it's kind of changing the subject, but what I was thinking, like, a lot of people like have asked me because of the mental health thing if I regret going to Hong Kong abroad, and generally abroad, and the answer is no. But something you have to keep in mind, and I wish somebody had told me, is that don't go with any expectations, because I kind of went going to Hong Kong like, oh, it's gonna solve all my problems, like, because there's so much hype around year abroad. And obviously you could have a lovely year and an amazing year, and I have a lot of great memories. But also that expectation of me thinking like this is going to be the best year ever, this is going to be the best time of my life, kind of made it unrealistic and made me a lot unhappier of what I thought I wanted versus what I had. So yeah, that would be something that I wish somebody had told me, because again, it's a bit of a toxic positivity vibe of being like, yeah, like, everything's going to go perfect. Like it's not like nothing's going to go like completely.
Yeah.
There's going to be challenges and so on, and you're more than capable of facing them. But, just keep that in mind.
If there is anything you could tell to your pre-study abroad self, what would it be? I think I would say expect the unexpected.
Yeah.
And
I don't know how you can expect the unexpected.
in the sense that,
I think just be ready and open to anything.
You never know what's gonna happen, because, like, for instance, I went for Hong Kong not knowing that I would end up hitting the bottom and having the worst time in quarantine. That I never expected that.
Yeah.
So, and also I would add,
Yeah.
learn one lesson that I've taken from this experience is that you can't control everything, because I'm that type of person that likes to control the situation, know how to find a solution and how to get out of a complicated situation. But then in that case, I just didn't have any control on anything whatsoever. So just I learned that you can't control everything and expect the unexpected.
Be ready for anything and open to everything. I think it's more important. Just don't go with like idea of what you're gonna do and you're gonna do this and that's what's gonna be. I will recommend though having a flat share. Like I didn't enjoy I mean in a small city I didn't enjoy living alone. So I will say when you don't want to go out or like you just want to chill home and like you have a friend there, flatmate, I think it's much more helpful for your mental health than just being alone and all by yourself. So yeah, I will say rather get like don't live alone, but I know like Emilie, you have maybe a contradictory opinion about this.
It really depends on the relation you have on whether you prefer living alone or not. And if you struggle with loneliness, then yes, living in a flat share is beneficial, whether you feel lonely or not.
I think it's something that you can't expect because before going, I couldn't like I didn't have any issues of like being alone or like feeling lonely or anything. It just really like as I had nothing to do, the only thing I could do was like going home, and just home there was no one. So just like, okay, what should I do now? And so that was kind of my problem, I guess, but it was related to like small city and like whatever it was. So yeah.
But it proves how you had to experience it to realize this.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's why I don't regret it at the end. But maybe if I had to do it again, I will have get a flat share for sure. That's
I think
what I would say.
loneliness is like it's one of the things that you have to be confronted with when you go on your year abroad. Like especially when you
Yeah,
go on your own, right? You have to like
yeah,
at one point you will be confronted with
Yourself.
loneliness and with yourself and like being independent and like, but there's one thing that like the thing is like it's not because like you're on your own that you are really
all
lonely,
alone.
because like first of all you have like, I mean, you probably have like friends or families like that you can reach out to online, like with the phone and whatever. But also like people are around you, like physically there, are more willing to help than we think. And it's just like a case of like actually reaching out and just like don't isolate yourself, because there's like always at least one person that you're gonna resonate with and that you can actually talk to and like be open with. And yeah, so just like trying to be open to people and like the surroundings, and just not letting yourself like stay in the bubble. And even if you're like a lone wolf, it's never the same when you're away from home.
If there's one thing you could tell to your pre-study self, what would it be?
Don't be so hard on yourself, because I really beat myself up like mentally during exchange, because again there was kind of like this expectation that I had to be having fun all the time to make the best out of it, and that is true to some extent, but it is also normal to have moments where you feel more vulnerable, lonely, like kind of what we were talking about, and that is okay as well. And also that there's a lot of things that come with privilege that maybe at the time I didn't have, and that I've come to kind of accept, because I push my financial boundaries sometimes to kind of be involved. I really wanted to travel to Thailand, for example, and I felt so disappointed when I couldn't go. And now in retrospect, I'm like, but you had an amazing time. You have amazing memories. Like, do not define yourself by what you didn't have, but by what you were able to do. And that's already enough. Yeah. That was very,
Yeah,
but,
but it's necessary to say it.
yeah.
And also I think like it's what you were saying about like the pressure of the year abroad. Like one thing is like no one should let the pressure of the year abroad get to you, because it doesn't exist. And like this idea of, oh, you have to have the best time of your life. Yes, you do, but the best time of your life is like according to your own standards and according to your own definition of having fun and like enjoying yourself. And if like for one person it means going out every night, or the other person is like just like, I don't know, swimming in the ocean twice a day, or it can literally be anything, but just like enjoy yourself. And yeah, and like not let the pressure of anything else get to you, because that's something that can easily ruin your experience. And it's really a shame, because going abroad is so enriching and there's so many resources around. Being patient and taking the time to get used to the surroundings. Like if it takes you 2 months to adapt, then take the 2 months, because like
Yeah.
if you start doing things that you're not comfortable with in the beginning, that can also ruin the experience for you.
Thank you very much for all your advices, recommendations, and sharing your experience. I think it's going to be very, very helpful to many of our listeners. And bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Emily.